and action taking, and is part of the mental model and identity breakthrough mindset modules. And of course, it's very important because unlike what is being told several times over and over again from the self-development industry, and if you know me a little bit, you know what I think about it. I think, and in my opinion, as a huge fluff and bluff and scam in general when it comes to actually getting people to achieve results, because it is not about making you believe you can do something. It's about actually taking action and measure whether or not you achieve a results. And of course, whether you think like me or you think unlike me, you cannot deny the fact that if we take better action, we make better decisions, and we can measure, chances are you're getting closer and closer to a results. And obviously, if you do produce results, then it's all a matter of optimizing and improving from the results. So there are three important part when it comes to get that to happen. And it's like, one, you need to plan. Two, you need to commit to the plan. And three, you need to create consistency on the plan, right? And when it comes to planning, it's like really coming out with 2 or 3 realistic goals, usually very small goals that can be prioritized and implemented inside a structure, right? And what I mean by structure is like I literally mean like you should be living in building blocks that will basically prevent you from finding excuses. It will prevent you from dealing with the fact that you don't have time. Like you said that to yourself. If you didn't say it to yourself, you heard people saying it. And what it really means is that you don't really learn yet how to be efficient with your time, right? And that means that if you want to live in 1 hour building blocks or in 30 minutes building blocks, whatever you want to do, all the high successful performant people when it comes to CEO or business people, whatever what they do, and some of them are moms with 3-4 children. Some of them they have their own business. Some of them they work for a very high pressure company, and it comes down to a very similar pattern, the pattern of focusing and be able to implement blocks that get you to feel like or get you to measure the time you're using versus feeling like, oh, I think I don't have time, right? And you literally have to block in every single team. If it's work, you block it in. If you're lunch, you block it in. If you go for a walk, you block it in. If you're talking to significant other, you block it in. When you have time to spend with your children, you block it in. I mean, that's how it is if you want to be successful. If you want to have a total utter chaos in your life and feel like you live like, let's say, you basically wing it, how it goes, yeah, then chances are this is why you then say to yourself, oh, I cannot really find time to work out or to walk, right? Ideally, it's because like you haven't really found a time to create space for yourself, and that including create space of yourself, meaning like create the time that is just for you and nothing else, right? Once you create a plan, it's about really committing to a plan, and that means like between 7 and 14 days, you're gonna test whether or not that plan makes sense. You're gonna see what to change in that plan, and then create consistency. We usually is done between 1 or 2 months. And it's like after 1 or 2 months, you're gonna have the results, and like the results either is what you thought it would be. If it's not, of course, you need to kind of optimize on what it is. If after a month you cannot do the things that you told yourself you have to do, it's really about making things more simple, right? And of course, all these 3 components are usually ending up building an identity for yourself. And chances are, if you're here and you're not yet successful, chances are you have built an identity for yourself already. If you've been here quite a while, and of course, if you are in the program, this is one of the first videos you should be watching, so that probably means that you haven't yet built it. But if you watch back this video and you've been here like a few months already, and you're achieving amazing results and you got your first breakthroughs, chances are you already went from an identity building or an identity shifting, and you went from who you thought you were in the beginning to somebody you are now. And of course, building an identity comes down to 5 distinct building blocks, which is basically building the habits, your current self, your current identity, your willpower, physical and mental, your internal operating system, and then your future self. Right now, we're gonna kind of like break through all these things and kind of like give you a framework to actually building a better one. The habits should be very short or small or little commitment as possible, meaning like when it comes to building a habit, like let's say your habit has to be like going to the gym, right? You don't just want to say, I'm going to go to the gym 7 times a week. Chances are it's more so like you're going to start to say to yourself, you're going to go a few times a week. But in order to make that happen at times, the timetable can last for weeks. And it's really important because it starts from getting your gym clothes ready, pretty much on a single basis, right? Every single day. Maybe after a week you're doing that, you prepare the gym bag and you put it in front of the door so that you don't forget, so that you don't find excuse, so that you don't get to the day after that you say, oh, it's so hard for me to be able to do these things. I just gonna skip it and I'm gonna go tomorrow, right? Usually this is what, as funny as it sounds, this is what people say to themselves. All these excuses, they always come up because sometimes you haven't prepared an habit good enough, right? And of course, when it's so hard for you to say, I'm going to go to the gym, and you say, I'm going to go 3 times, and then you end up going one, of course, the big building blocks, which is going to the gyms, you always want to start with a little, maybe one, and then like you progress to two, and then when it's two, then it's three. Because of course, unlike me, which I love the gym, or I love to work out with weights. Many people don't. And of course, it's important for you to understand that at some point, when you don't like something, it's harder and harder, right? So you need to become good at something so that you can find passion in it, right? And should it be too hard for you to go to the gym, you basically want to make these habits as small as possible, as little commitment as possible, so that it's impossible to fail, right? The second block is basically the current self. Who am I identify as myself as has? Like, who do you feel like I am, right? I am the procrastinator. I'm the emotional eater. I am the single mom. I'm the busy mom. I'm the poor person. I'm kind of like it's basically going out with, there is always two ways of thinking. It's like, am I a victim or am I a victor? Am I a winner or am I a loser, right? In my own mind. Like, chances are, if you're here, chances are that it could be that you feel like yourself as a victim, right? And to change that around, you really need to always thinking about, and we're gonna see it in a second, like, how can I go from being a victim to actually feel like everything is in my control, feel like everything is my fault. When something doesn't happen, it's my fault, right? And we're gonna dive into that in a second, but more so, you need to do before that, because all these things are consequential. Habits start from, making your habits as easy as possible, like going for a walk, maybe drinking water every single time, like every single thing as easy as possible. That's gonna kind of shift your current self a little bit. And then there is this huge cornerstone here, which is the willpower, my physical and mental willpower, right? And this is very important because it's almost like a battery, the iPhone battery. And if you watch your phone, like iPhone or not iPhone, chances are there is a battery that sometimes becomes red, or it becomes like there is only like 5% left, and then like, that you operate on a 70-80%, everything is easy in life. Like, everything seems to be quite simple, right? And of course, when you operate on very scarce battery, then is when you start kind of like struggling. You make bad decisions, you make bad food decisions, you feel like you have no energy, maybe to play with your kids. And needless to say that most of us experience that, but very few of us actually stop themselves and ask, why is my willpower constantly low, right? Why am I always that? And instead of like analyzing that and kind of like understand what to do instead, you basically feel like there are things that you say, okay, I'm stressed, so basically I need a reward. I'm not really going to pay attention today. I'm going to leave these days to chance, and then I'm going to try again tomorrow, right? Like, I'm going to try a diet tomorrow. I'm going to start on Monday and all that stuff. Everybody said that, right? You need to understand a little bit how it works, because again, it's also consequential, like before, but it starts from actually not being able to deal with stress. Stressor is basically something external in the external environment, whether it's a fight with your spouse, whether it's a boss that you hate, whether it's a job that you hate, whether it's a physical component like going to not really dealing well with running, for instance, or dealing well with weather changes, then you get sick. And of course, that elicitate a stress response, right? And then, of course, the stress response usually is biochemical. It's very inside and make you feel in a certain way. For some people, it gets as bad as biochemical changes, like anxiety, right? Like they have like a like traumas, or they have, how do you say, panic attack until, right? Even that. Therefore, it's like very important for you to understand distinguishing the stressors, something that usually is part of your life as a result. It could be as bad as somebody dying, passing away, or stressor, even it can be when you fly somewhere, which you don't like to fly, is an external environmental part, versus the stress response, which is usually something biochemical, which always has a very similar stress response. Whether or not you're stressed for a flight, or whether or not you're stressed for somebody worse, there is always this way that is gonna biochemically react inside your body. Now, you cannot do anything about the stressor. Sometimes they're there. If you stress about your kids, about your family, your parents, whatever the case is, those are there, and chances are there is nothing you can do about it. But then there is the stress response. So, in other words, I rewind. You can still do something about the stressor that you can control. Chances are, if the environment sucks because there is a mate that you cannot, sometimes they dragging you down, or somebody at work that they bring food that you're not supposed to eat, and you told them 100 times that you don't want that, and they still bring it. Chances are you can change your environment. That one is something that needs to be analyzed. And the first question is like, you have to ask yourself, it's like, what stressor can I reduce from my life? Obviously, if it's a job that you kind of have to take, I mean, you could quit if you want it, or you stay there, but like you kind of have to deal with it, right? If it's a person that bothers you and inside your life is dragging you down, chances are you can get rid of this person, right? Like, you can choose to do that. But then you need to really become better on dealing with the stress response. If it's something that you cannot give away in your life, like let's say your mother or your kid makes you mad many times. I mean, they're there, right? What can you do, right? But you can still choose how your body is going to react. It takes quite a little bit of practice, but it will basically be something that you can do something with. And uh, the best connection, or kind of like analogy I could find, it was like everybody's stressed about their bank account, and financial bank account, and everybody's always talking about not having money, or having life of scarcity, whatever is bad, and like that's a financial bank account. They don't understand many times, the people, that like the bank account financial is always, sometimes it's empty, but like the one thing that is more empty is your emotional bank account. The most successful people is the one that actually focus on the emotional bank account, and as a result, the financial bank account usually is much better, right? And you have to always think in an analogy of deposit and withdraw, right? When you deposit something, it's like you meditate, you walk, you eat well, you're creating space for yourself. You really say, this is just gonna be my time. You go for a workout. You talk with significant other. Even things such as spending time with other people, or with animals that you love. That is a deposit of your emotional bank account. That makes you feel good, right? The withdrawal is like when, let's say, your phone crashes, your car crashes, you constantly are complaining not having any money, you fight with a significant other, you hate your job. When all these things, when there is no balance on that, when there is more withdrawal than deposits, usually is when people struggle, right? If you constantly have a drawn battery when it comes to willpower, you have to ask yourself, first and foremost, are my withdrawal more than my deposit when it comes to my emotional bank account, or the other way around? Because chances are you can already start analyzing what's happening, right? And of course, if the withdrawal is more, then you start, making wrong choices, much like saying food controls me. I'm an emotional eater. And you understand there is nothing wrong about the food, but if you ate enough during the day, chances are there is a psychological component. And every single time you said, I'm not in control of that, yeah, I am an emotional eater. You're basically giving up the ownership for you to be able to understand that everything I do is my fault. And if I understand that, I understand that I'm also in control of that, right? Then, of course, if you were to continue to do this behavior, you create a bad physical willpower, or lack of willpower. There is now known a connection between microbiome and digestion and gut health and the brain. And every single time when it comes to the gut and the brain health, and we're talking about things such as the vagus nerve, the tryptophan, all the microbiome, the behavior, the serotonin, all these neurotransmitters, and everything is really much into chemistry. And obviously, I don't want to bore you to that to get you to understand this thing. And even if I stay here an hour, at the end of the day, like, you still wouldn't know more than you need to know. It's more so like the one thing you need to know is like that if there is an imbalance between the gut peptides and microbiome and your HPA axis and the relationship with the brain and the gut, chances are the energy you're missing, it could be physiological, right? And this is, of course, like that requires testing, and usually it requires blood testing. It requires some other testing when it comes to the gut. But for instance, myself, like, it's been a while now that I've been taking probiotic, and there are probiotic and there are postbiotic. And a lot of my problem automatically went away. Is balancing my hormone out, is also giving me a better reaction on the neurotransmitters on the brain. And that got me to, of course, taking better habits, right? Be able to run, which I wasn't be able to run for a while. Like I always down with energy, right? But you understand that this is a connection. Of course, if you want to know more about this and like you feel like this could be you, um, if you're in the program, let's have a conversation. If you watch this, because I'm going to make this available also for people not in the program, also let's have a conversation if you feel like this is limiting you, because your willpower is not some woohoo rah rah kind of stuff. It's like it's something actually real. Like if you the mental battery is not good and then it impacts the physical battery, chances are it creates problem, right? After we look at this, we then look at the internal operating system, and again, it's very tied together because like we know that sometimes we fail for whatever we allow ourselves to believe, our beliefs, our lack of belief, our lack of discipline that we have, and we say to ourselves stuff like, "Oh, it's just gonna be a few cookies, right?" And nothing is wrong with a few cookies or a banana or an extra apple when you don't need it, but that means that 150 calories could turn into 750, it could turn to 3,000, and it could turn to equal to about 10 cheeseburger, which equals to about 0.1 kilogram of fat every single month if you did that, right? And there's nothing wrong with the extra bite, it won't hurt, but it's the mindset that you're coming up with when it comes to you saying to these things, right? It's basically the internal operating system which you basically believe. And again, it comes down to a lack of discipline, it comes down to a lack of commitment to yourself, and it comes down to again when you live in cycle of you not being able to do something for long enough, then is something that becomes almost part of yourself, right? How do you stop? You do that. You, like I said before, you pretend everything is your fault, right? Now, if you eat 10 cheeseburger, you know it's your fault. If it rains outside, chances are you don't know it's your fault, but you could still come out with some sort of like plan to do when it's about to rain. So if you say it's raining outside, you know there are still things I can control, like buying an umbrella, like sometimes taking a train or a flight and go somewhere else when there is no rain, if you actually really care about that. And again, those are extreme example, but if you understand everything is your fault and you live your life on that way, chances are you're not going to be a victim, but you're going to be a victor, because chances are you're always going to be doing the things that you need to do, right? And of course, living by the code, the code we operate by, or if you don't like our code, you definitely want to create one for yourself. And our code is very simple. All this set of actions is not going to allow you to fail long term. And it's basically saying, stop finding excuses for not taking action. Be resourceful. Before you ask 1,000 questions, chances are there are things that you can already see. Be impeccable with your word. If you say you're going to do something, do it. Otherwise, you not say it. It makes you look a much like a better person. If you don't say something you're not going to do, try everything once with at least once without belief. That means that you need to try between in less of having all these stories inside your mind that something is not going to work. Love yourself and care enough. Love yourself enough to care, right? And that means basically, aka, be selfish and then prioritize yourself, right? This is our code. If you were to follow that to a T, chances are you have a much better chance to create a better internal operating system for yourself. The last one, probably most important one, is create your future self, your visualization. How many times have I said that you must practice being successful before you are successful, right? That is done with affirmations, with saying things to yourself, whether it's in front of the mirror, whether it's like in your own mind, but saying things out loud to yourself. Practice being successful, like I said before. Practice thinking about what successful could be, right? Self mythology is like, thinking that you see yourself greater than what you are, or greater than what you can be, right? This is something I do a lot. And some people like it, some people don't. Well, that's me and I do it, right? Visualization, dream farming, right? And this is done with stuff like vision board, right? So many people don't understand the power of that thing. Visualizing yourself that you're gonna own a house, that you're gonna own a car, that you're gonna be a specific person becoming, right? Like that get you to get all the time closer, gets your brain to see that this thing is possible, right? You need to get your first memory. Your first 10 kilo you lose when you said that it was impossible to lose is a first memory of success, right? And ultimately, of course, you need to dream big, and then you'll get like, because you'll never exceed your higher expectation. If you just say I want to lose 5 kilo, or sorry, 50 kilo, and you only say I'm going to be happy with 20, chances are you're going to lose 10. If you need 50 and you say I'm going to lose 60, chances are you're going to do all you can to achieve the 50 or the 60. And that means that usually you achieve the results, right? So vision boards is just an example. Now you say to yourself, okay, that sounds all good and dandy, but how can I implement all that, right? How can I do that? I'm very busy. Like I know that I should be meditating. I know I should be doing that, but I have no time. I'm busy. The answer is quite simple. Much like I said, there is going to be the whole self-development industry is going to kind of want you to go to seminars, spend a bunch of time and money for them to make you feel in 24 hours that you basically have the key to unlock your life, right? It comes down to much more simple things. Like, if you do that, you're just going to go there and you're going to be disappointed, right? It comes down to very few things. Most people don't want success if it takes any sacrifice whatsoever. They don't. It's simple as that. Okay. So most people, they don't fall into the category of desire nor necessity. Most people fall into this idea that I want to achieve something, I want to lose weight to go to the beach or whatever the case is, even if they have like an undeniable desire because they say, I want to be more confident. I hate my skin. And I always ask, how long have you been there? Some of them 20 years. What have you done? Nothing, because I feel like I cannot achieve. Okay, well, then you don't want it then. It's as simple as that. There is no desire, there is no necessity, right? There is just I want, but there is no skin in the game. There is nothing that you do, right? I mean, it starts from understanding like how bad do I want to achieve something? How undeniable my desire is. You need to want it more than the air that you breathe. Simple as that, right? And when you come, is a matter of desire versus necessity, or better say, is a matter of desire versus necessity coming from a place of I just want, but I don't really want it, bad enough. Then it comes down to understand that if it's a desire, chances are you could say, I want to lose weight to have more energy to play with my kids. In other words, that your kids are not going to die, obviously, if you don't play with them, but it's probably going to make you feel bad, right? When it comes to necessity, it comes down to say, if I don't lose weight, I'm going to prevent, maybe if I do lose weight, I prevent a condition so I can be present for my kids. So you do understand that. And of course, there is not really, there is more of a take-home point inside this video that give you a framework. And what I would love you to do right now is like comment inside the group, like taking the 5 things about the identity, comment inside the group, where are you starting from? Where do you stand? And what can you do? But it comes down to also saying, what is my desire? Is it a necessity for me, or is it a desire, right? I'd love you to comment down below inside either the video or the group or whatever the case is, because this is going to give you an idea to where to start. And of course, this is just a matter of making you feel